Today we see Primaris making their way into the inner circle, the news of 2 new Necron dynasties, and a few shots of the other Indomitus models painted in some different colour schemes. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where we've been covering the news and development around 9th edition as Games Workshop has been previewing stuff to us. Today's preview is pretty small, but it definitely gives us a bit of new information and a few interesting things to talk about. First of all, we'll talk about the new Deathwing Blade Guard Veteran, then have a look at a few of the other Space Marines painted in other colour schemes, then talk about the 3 new Necron dynasties that we know of so far. So first of all, we have the fairly big news that Primaris Space Marines have got into the Death Company. As I'm sure the majority of you are aware, the Death Company are the elite first company of the Dark Angels, almost always fielded in Terminator armour, and represent the inner circle of the Dark Angels, privy to some of the chapter's most disturbing secrets from their past. In the background and lore so far throughout 8th edition, the Dark Angels Primaris Space Marines have been viewed with extreme distrust, thought by many of those higher up in the chapter to be little more than spies of Guilliman. According to some fluff, I understand that they've been treated quite badly, including brutal interrogations and liberal use of mind-wipe technology to prevent them from retaining sensitive information. Up until now, we've not seen any Primaris even in Ravenwing colours, who are generally considered to be the circle below the Deathwing in terms of exclusivity. The Ravenwing hunt the fallen Dark Angels, and the Deathwing summoning the Deathwing to finally destroy them. The decision to make this miniature a Deathwing one is actually kind of surprising to me. To me, this Blade Guard looks a bit more in the style of Dark Angels Veterans as opposed to Deathwing, as of course it's not a Terminator, and Deathwing pretty much exclusively make war in Terminator armour. In-game, in the current Dark Angels Codex, Deathwing get to auto-pass morale, thanks to their inner circle rule, and they also get to reroll hit rolls against fallen Dark Angels. Not that that tends to be very relevant when you're having random games of 40k against people. It does make me wonder if they might acquire some sort of teleportation rules if they're fielded in Dark Angels, so they can be fielded alongside their Deathwing counterparts. To be honest, possibly even more interesting than this is that it really does imply that Outriders will be Ravenwing. I think that this was a pretty safe bet already, to be honest. I mean, how could you release Space Marine bikes and not have them be Ravenwing and Dark Angels? It just wouldn't make sense. But now we've seen the preview for those Outriders, just with the known synergies that already exist in Dark Angels, they're going to be absolutely monstrous. Their Jinx special rule, which can be used just for one stratagem reactively, can give them a 4+ invul save, and with a 4 wound toughness 5 profile, then they're just going to be ridiculously hard to shift. From Ritual of the Damned, they're also going to be able to help deep strike Deathwing Terminators nearer to the enemy, and might be a bit more reliable at doing this than standard Ravenwing bikes, thanks to just being so much more durable on a per model basis. And there's an absolute ton of stratagems and synergy for the Ravenwing, both within and without the Codex. Many stratagems are usable by Ravenwing bikers. You can field them in the Attack Squadron from Vigilus, which only requires the Ravenwing keyword. And there's also things like the unique Ravenwing relics and warlord traits from the Ritual of the Damned book, which are likely to have great synergy if the Outriders are as powerful as they're looking on paper. It makes me wonder if that Invader ATV, which is clearly supposed to go alongside them, will be a Ravenwing vehicle as well. I'd guess that it probably would be, much in the same way that attack bikes are. Unfortunately, these Blade Guard veterans just really aren't going to have many synergies with the current rules for Dark Angels, as almost all the Deathwing stratagems and rules tend to rely around the Deathwing Terminator keyword, rather than just Deathwing. It would be quite nice if Games Workshop did something clever, like said that these guys could use Deathwing Terminator stratagems as well. We've also got a couple of other shots of a Blade Guard veteran painted up both in Iron Hands and Blood Angels colours. Iron Hands do have a 6+ Feel No Pain, which will be pretty usable by these guys. Multi-wound infantry and invul save and Feel No Pain usually makes for a very durable unit indeed. And of course, Blood Angels are going to absolutely love having more Assault Primaris with power weapons running around. I think a delivery system is going to be the main question for these, maybe either with the new Strategic Reserves rule, whatever they turn out to be, or with something like Raven Guard to allow them to deep strike, much like Assault Centurions can for some reason. From the Warhammer 40,000 Facebook page, we've got a few more pictures. It looks like the Blade Guard Ancient will also be gaining the Deathwing abilities, at least judging by that colour scheme that he's painted with there. You can also see them making use of some of the transfers in the Indomitus box. There are a few transfers on the Space Marine transfer sheet. If you pay attention as well, then there's also a Repulsor or Repulsor Executioner hiding in the background of that shot, which is also painted in Deathwing colours. I think this is basically just trying to cement the Repulsor as the Land Raider equivalent in the new Primaris Marines force. Deathwing Land Raiders have often been painted up in their colours, so it makes sense that Deathwing Repulsors will be too, I suppose. On the right we've got some White Scars Outriders. I'm thinking that this is going to be really fun for the White Scars players out there who've just had so many tricks for their bikers. They've always been hampered so much by not having a decently threatening bike unit, unlike the Ravenwing's Black Knights. White Scars are great in close combat, and great with bikes, but the main problem was they didn't have any bikes that were good in close combat, aside from characters. Now they do have bikes that are good in close combat. I dread to think how dangerous these guys could be when they're stacked with the Assault Doctrine, and also potentially damage to chainswords from the White Scars version of it. We've also got some Assault Intercessors painted up in Blood Angels colours on the left. Interesting to see they've gone with the yellow helmets on these guys, much like Blood Angels Assault Marines. It's certainly looking interesting to give the Blood Angels another way to get a melee unit into close combat. Maybe we might see some sort of Impulsor lists take off now that you've actually got a credible threat of a melee unit to put inside them. If those chainswords are something like AP-1, like they've been rumoured to be, then I think they'll be a really fun and threatening little unit. The yellow heads does make me wonder whether or not they're going to be fast attack or troops again. I'm honestly still completely on the fence about this one. On the one hand, I think it'd be unlikely for them to release a big box without some troops in them at all, but on the other hand, they seem to be very much filling the same battlefield role as Assault Marines, albeit on foot. Speaking of that, I would absolutely love to see an Assault Intercessor kit that gave you a jump pack option. That would be so much fun. Finally, we have some Imperial Fists Blade Guard veterans. Not really too much to say about these guys. Imperial Fists don't really have all that much synergy with them, but I'll admit that they're looking pretty spectacular there, with their white First Company helmets, and the Sergeant with that beautiful red and white stripe down the front. Moving on to the Necrons then, they have confirmed the name of the main Necron dynasty that we've been seeing in all the previews. I'm not sure if we'd seen this before or not, but they are the Zarrican dynasty, denoting them as followers of Zarek the Silent King. They had a bit of a discussion about the painting of them on the Warhammer Live Twitch stream earlier today. Basically they're trying to differentiate the over carapace of the metal and the under carapace, so you can see that these guys are sort of painted in a coppery colour on the over bit and more sort of traditional silvery metal on the under bit. They also mentioned that Illuminor Serraz has pretty much joined this dynasty, at least for the time being. It'd be interesting to see whether he retains his ability to be taken across multiple Necron detachments, or whether or not he's actually going to have the Zarrican keyword. In any case, he's looking pretty cool in that colour scheme as he borrows this guy's soul. Finally, in addition to this new dynasty, we also have two others. Previously, in the Necron Codex from 8th edition, there were 5 dynasties. These were Sautek, Novok, Nihilak, Nefrek, and Mefrit, and to be honest, having only 5 of them is a bit less than some of the other races out there. Fewer options just generally means there's less ability to customize your army to optimize the units that you're running them with. As well as the Zarrican dynasty that we've seen already, we now have a Xanathor dynasty with those purple shoulder pads and a more sort of bluey glow to their Gauss weapons. And the Zarakura dynasty, who are more kind of black clad with a teal coloured carapace, and they've really made the head look very skull-like, picking it out in a lighter greeny grey. It does still very much have metallic parts going on throughout him though. Finally, it's always good to see the classic colour scheme revived. We have a Sautek Dynasty Necron on the right here. Gone are the green plastic rods, and also this guy's jaw apparently, but I really quite like to see the classic colour scheme picked out on the new models. I think it's looking absolutely great. As ever, if you just want to get a whole load of Necrons on the table painted up very quickly, then this guy would be a great option. Basically just spray them silver, give them a wash with some Nuln Oil, and pick out some details with green and black. I'm sure the Sauteks will remain a very powerful dynasty due to their characters that they have all of their own. So certainly some interesting developments there. It's surprising how much paint can even tell you about new rules for the armies. I'll be honest, looking at all these snazzy Necrons is making me very tempted to paint up a small force when the box comes out. Let me know what you think about Inner Circle Primaris down in the comments below. It'll be interesting to hear what you have to say, and if you don't have any thoughts, then you can always just fall back on the usual jokes about Dark Angels being Chaos Marines. If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics. We'll most certainly be continuing to look at the 9th edition news and developments as they come out. And if you have been enjoying my videos, then I'd just like to mention the Auspex Tactics Patreon page, which is what allows me to create all this content for the channel. If you have been watching regularly, then any support is greatly appreciated, as it's only through the support of the channel's patrons that I can continue to do this as a more full-time basis. As well as supporting videos, patrons get to see new previews of videos early, get to vote on regular polls on what they'd like to see next for the channel, and there's regular monthly prize draws, such as this month we're giving away 3 Guardstar collecting boxes, and next month it'll be 3 copies of the Indomitors box. So if you'd like to be in the draw for those, or you'd just like to help support the channel, then the link is down in the description below. A massive thank you to my current patrons for allowing this channel to be possible, and a big thank you for watching. I'll hope to see you guys next time.